Finally, some transparency, my mom smirked, tapping a folder on my kitchen island. It turns out you're richer than you pretended, sweetheart. Good thing we're here to help you manage it. I felt the room tilt, kettle hissing, fridge humming, my brother's cologne too sweet in the doorway. The folder lay there like a verdict. 2 breaths. 1 heartbeat. 100 unspoken things. Everyone, my name is Sable Merritt. I'm 27. I keep my receipts in shoe boxes and my calm in the freezer. I learned to survive by being quiet longer than most people can stand. And today, I'm the quietest I've ever been. Here's the part you didn't see. The years I spent in a studio apartment with a window that never opened, writing code until my fingers went numb, pitching to rooms where no one said my name correctly, building contracts one signature at a time. Here's the other part. Nobody visited then. Nobody asked if I ate. Nobody managed anything except my absence. My brother, Evan, held the folder like a trophy. Hired a financial analyst, he said, too casually. Just to make sure you're protected. He pushed a glossy report toward me, pie charts, clean fonts, numbers I'd memorized in private. Now we know what you've got, we can take the pressure off your plate. Family should guide family, Mom added, the corners of her mouth carving a familiar line of triumph. You don't want to make naive mistakes and lose everything. Your father and I can set up accounts, reallocate, handle approvals. The kettle clicked off. The silence that followed was louder. I glanced at the window over the sink, at the thin ribbon of sky bleached by afternoon glare. On the sill sat my chipped ceramic mug, the one with the comma-shaped scratch near the handle from the night the code finally worked, and I dropped it in disbelief. I reached for it, not to drink, but to steady my hand. The porcelain felt cool, like a boundary. Where did you get my numbers? I asked. Evan's smile flickered. Public filings. Projections. Some access through the, look, it's not a big deal. We just thought. You thought I was your account, I said. Mom's perfume, powdery and insistent, pressed the air between us. Don't be dramatic. We love you. We're correcting direction. You'll thank us when the market shifts. The word love felt like a paper cut. I lifted the report. Flipped a page. Noted the precision, vesting schedules, vendor payouts, an offshore note I'd parked for 1 month only. Too precise for public filings. Too confident for guesses. A faint tick-tick came from the wall clock, each second a small hammer. In that measured tapping, a line drew itself inside me. Thin, exact, final. I looked up, caught Evan's eyes, then Mom's, both bright with the thrill of discovery. You hired someone to see inside my life, I said, voice steady, and you think that means you own the view? No one answered. Outside, a bus let out a sigh and moved on. Inside, I set the report down and, for the first time, smiled. Not because I agreed. Because the comma on my mug reminded me, this isn't the end of the sentence. And I haven't even started speaking. Evan leaned against the counter like he owned the place, fingers drumming on marble. You don't have to get defensive, Sable. We're family. You act like we're thieves. I didn't answer. The report on the counter had a watermark, one I recognized. It wasn't from some public database. It was from the confidential financial firm I'd hired last year to audit my tech startup's merger. Meaning someone in my trusted circle sold information, or someone paid them to. I poured tea, the steam wrapping between us like fog. Funny thing, I said softly, family never called when I was coding 18 hours a day on 2 energy bars. Mom rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go, your martyr speech. Dad's voice joined from the doorway. He'd arrived quietly, like always, when the argument was safely underway. We're not the enemy, he said, tugging at his watch strap. We're just better equipped. You're young, emotional. We've managed money all our lives. Yeah, I said, setting the cup down, I remember. You managed to lose Grandpa's inheritance on a real estate flip. He stiffened. Evan cleared his throat. That was different. Was it? The air hummed with old tension, decades of ignored birthdays, passive-aggressive dinners, silence when I needed guidance. I had begged once for a small loan to keep my project alive. They'd said, we don't fund hobbies. And now, suddenly, they were financial advisors. Mom slid a document across the counter. Sign this. It just allows us joint oversight, simple protection, really. You'll still have full access. The paper trembled slightly in her manicured hand. It wasn't love, it was hunger dressed as care. I stared at the line where my signature was supposed to go. The pen beside it gleamed under the light. Evan smiled, trying to soften his tone. Come on, Sable. Don't make this a scene. Let's be smart, not emotional. I smiled back, small, sharp, cold. You're right. Let's be smart. Then I took the pen, drew one slow stroke across the page, just enough to tear it neatly in half. The sound of ripping paper echoed through the kitchen like thunder on glass. And in that silence, I realized something terrifying. They hadn't even started fighting yet. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Missed calls. Texts. A new email notification from Evan, subject line, urgent, you're making a mistake. The message was short. You can't just cut us out. We're family. Don't make us escalate this. Escalate. The word clanged in my skull. I was at my office downtown, staring at the city's skyline through tinted glass, the same skyline I used to dream about while eating instant noodles at my desk. I'd built everything from silence. The app, the contracts, the trust of clients who didn't even know I existed at first. Now it all felt like glass, beautiful but fragile. I called my assistant, Jordan, into the room. Hey, I said calmly, were there any access requests last week on the private accounts? She frowned. Actually, yes. Someone tried to log in from an external IP, claimed to be an authorized family member. I locked it out. Of course they did. By noon, I was parked outside my parents' house, the same colonial they'd mortgaged 3 times chasing business ventures. The curtains twitched before I even knocked. Mom opened the door, fake smile painted on. Sable, sweetheart. Come in, let's talk like adults. I stepped inside. Dad sat at the dining table, laptop open. Evan hovered nearby, pretending to be calm. On the screen, my company's balance sheet. You had no right, I said quietly. Dad didn't even look guilty. We just needed to understand what's happening. You're in too deep with investors. People like you get manipulated. We're protecting the family's interests. By hacking me? I asked. Evan stepped forward. We didn't hack you. We accessed what you hid. Same thing, right? I took one slow breath. You always wanted to teach me responsibility, I said, voice steady. So here's a lesson, cause and effect. They exchanged confused looks. I walked to the window, looked out at the familiar street where I'd once waited for them to pick me up from school. They'd always been late. Always said traffic. Now, I turned back and said softly, check your accounts. Because by the time they'd found mine, I'd already frozen theirs. Mom's voice cracked the air. You did what? Evan lunged for his phone, his face draining color as he opened his banking app. Dad's laptop beeped, a login error flashing red. The sound was almost musical. I stood by the window, hands folded. Calm, almost detached. You called my accountant pretending to be my co-founder, I said. So I called your banks pretending to be your daughter. You're insane. Evan snapped. You can't just. Relax, I cut in. It's temporary. A safety measure. You taught me that, remember? Mom's heels clicked against the tile as she approached me, her perfume thick with fury. You don't talk to your parents like that. We raised you. We made you. I met her eyes. Then maybe you should have made someone you could control. Her hand twitched, a reflex she didn't follow through with. Dad rose from his chair, his voice low and trembling. You've gone too far, Sable. You think you can play this game with us? You'll regret this. I tilted my head. No. I think I finally understand the rules. The clock ticked, slow, deliberate. Evan stormed toward the door, muttering something about lawyers. Mom sank into a chair, clutching her phone like it could still save her. I turned toward the kitchen and poured a glass of water, the sound of running tap filling the silence. Here's what's going to happen, I said evenly. You're going to stay out of my finances. No analysts. No signatures. No more pretending you care about my well-being when you really mean your balance sheets. Mom's lip trembled, but pride pinned her in place. You'll see, Sable. Families talk. Word spreads. People will hear about how ungrateful you are. I smiled faintly. Then they'll finally hear something true. I placed the glass on the table beside her phone. It left a small ring of water. Perfect, circular, expanding slowly. That mark would dry soon, but the message wouldn't. As I walked out the door, Evan shouted, "You think you've won?" I didn't answer. But the quiet part of me whispered, this isn't about winning. It's about ending the game entirely. For 3 days, I didn't hear a word from them. Not a call. Not a message. Only silence, the kind that feels too calm, like the pause before thunder. Then, on the 4th morning, an envelope appeared at my door. Stamped. Sealed. Legal. Inside, a letter from a law firm I recognized, their attorney. Our clients, Mr. and Mrs. Merritt, request access to financial disclosures related to joint family assets. Failure to comply may result in formal proceedings. I laughed under my breath. Family assets. There were none. Only the ones I created. Only the ones they now wanted to rename ours. I spent the rest of the morning at my office, scrolling through old photos on my screen, me at 23, sitting on a mattress on the floor, laptop balanced on my knees. The caption read, "Someday they'll ask how you did it." I hadn't realized they would be my own blood. By afternoon, I'd already called my attorney, Vanessa, a woman whose calm voice could slice through chaos like a scalpel. "They've overstepped," she said. "But we'll respond formally. You do not owe them disclosure. You owe them distance." Distance, I repeated. The word felt like freedom disguised as loneliness. That night, I sat on my balcony, city lights blinking like low stars. I thought of every dinner where I'd been told to stay humble, every snide comment about how real jobs didn't happen behind computer screens. And now? Those same voices were filing claims. My phone buzzed, a text from Evan. "You think lawyers will save you? You're not untouchable, Sable. We'll find another way." I stared at it for a moment, then typed back one line. "You already did. You found me when you needed money. And lost me forever when you touched it." I set the phone face down, exhaled slowly, and watched a plane cut across the night sky, tiny, fleeting, free. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet resolve took root. If they wanted to play with power, I'd show them what real control looked like, without ever raising my voice. By the next week, the whispers began. At first, it was subtle, old family friends suddenly checking in, aunt sending polite voice notes asking if everything was okay between you and your parents. Then came the Facebook posts. My mother's cryptic masterpieces. "We raise children so they never forget where they came from, even when money makes them blind." Dozens of sympathy comments followed. Hearts, prayers, the usual parade of pity. It worked. They were framing me as the ungrateful daughter, the one who abandoned her family after success. The same family that never lent me a cent, now playing victims of generosity they never gave. I wanted to be angry, but instead I felt steady. My anger had turned to strategy. I gathered screenshots, posts, comments, each one a brick in the wall they were building against me, and, unknowingly, the wall I'd soon make crumble. That night, I drafted a statement, not for social media, but for a board meeting. My company was expanding, and we'd been in talks with a financial education foundation. The timing was poetic. 2 days later, I stood before the cameras at a local business event. Reporters, investors, journalists, everyone watching. I wore a calm smile. "This program," I said, "will teach young women financial independence. Especially those told by their own families they can't be trusted with success." A low murmur rippled through the crowd. A few people recognized the shade beneath the speech. But it wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. That evening, my mother called. I let it ring twice before answering. Her tone was brittle. "You embarrassed us." "No," I said, quiet but clear. "You exposed yourselves." I just turned on the light. The silence on the other end was deafening. As I hung up, I looked at the ceramic mug on my desk, the same chipped one with the comma-shaped scratch. My little reminder that the story isn't over yet. Because I'd just turned the comma into a full stop. And next, I was going to write the ending, on my terms. The call from Evan came a week later, right when the city lights were flickering through my office windows. His voice was lower than usual, softer, even hesitant. "Sable," he said, "Mom's been crying non-stop. Dad's humiliated. People are talking." I stared at the skyline, one hand resting on the arm of my chair. "They started talking first." "I know," he sighed. "But maybe we went too far. He hesitated. "We thought you'd share. You've got everything now." There it was again, everything. The word they never used when I was nothing. "Evan," I said quietly, "I would have shared if you'd ever treated me like family. But you hired someone to dissect my life. You broke trust for curiosity. You don't fix that with guilt." He exhaled. "You don't get it. Mom thought you'd turn on us someday. She said money changes people." "Money didn't change me," I interrupted. "It revealed everyone else." The line went silent. For a second, I thought he'd hung up. Then I heard it, a trembling breath. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said. "I just wanted to know how you did it. You were always the quiet one. Then suddenly, you were the one with power." His voice cracked. I guess I got jealous. It was strange, hearing him sound human again. My throat tightened, but I stayed composed. "Jealous is expensive," I said softly. "And it's paid in people, not cash." He whispered, "Is it too late to fix it?" I looked down at the mug on my desk, tracing the crack near the handle. "Maybe not," I said. "But fixing something doesn't mean getting it back." He didn't answer. Just breathed once, heavy, and hung up. The screen went dark, and with it, the last piece of what I'd once called family. I leaned back, letting the silence fill the room, and for the first time in months, it didn't feel heavy. It felt like air. Because forgiveness wasn't the goal anymore. Freedom was. And I had finally bought mine, with truth. The letter arrived 3 weeks later, not from lawyers this time, but from my mother. Handwritten, trembling cursive across cream paper. "We didn't know what we were doing, Sable. We were scared. The world you live in isn't ours. We thought we were losing you to it. Maybe we were trying to hold on the only way we knew how, by controlling it. But it was wrong. We're sorry." I read it twice. Then a third time. The ink had smudged where her hand must have paused too long. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel anger. Just distance, a clean, healthy kind of distance. Like breathing air that wasn't shared anymore. That evening, I drove to the old house. The porch light flickered like an old heartbeat. Mom opened the door before I could knock. She looked smaller, not weaker, just deflated of all the noise she used to fill space with. Dad stood behind her, quiet. No lawyers. No papers. Just silence. "I got your letter," I said. She nodded, eyes glistening. "We never wanted to hurt you." "I know," I replied. "You just didn't know how not to." The wind shifted between us, soft, cold, carrying the faint smell of jasmine from the yard. I reached into my bag and handed her a single envelope. Inside it was a check, not for them, but for charity. "I opened a fund," I said. "It's for women who start over with nothing. It's named after Grandma Merritt. I think she'd like that." Her lips trembled. "You didn't have to." "I did," I said. "Because I wanted something good to come from this." Behind me, the streetlights blinked on, one by one, like understanding dawning too late. When I turned to leave, Mom whispered, "Sable." I paused. "Do you hate us?" I looked back, offering the smallest, truest smile I'd ever given her. "No. I just finally love myself more." And as I walked toward my car, the night felt lighter, not because they'd changed, but because I had.